Hello to you. How is your speaking journey going or your communication journey going? Are you finding your way? Are you feeling confident? I do hope so. If not, remember you can always reach out to me via email, monique@moniquebradley.tv. Send me your thoughts, send me your concerns. I might be able to direct you to a video that can help. Okay, so today's video topic is about the use of intentional language. So many years ago, I was trained in a languaging system called conscious communications. And what it really did was it started to make me really intentional about the way that I speak and the way that I would use language and its effects on other people. So, as an example, one of the greatest things I learnt was when I had a performing arts school many years ago, long time ago, and I loved it. And I had at some stages, we were doing concerts, we would have maybe 100 children all singing and dancing. People would say, how did you get my child to do this or that? And it was because I'd learnt this languaging system, which was designed to always speak largely in the positive, actually, to give direct commands in a way that people would understand. And it wouldn't devalue my credibility. It wouldn't make me seem like a tyrant. It was a positive way of framing conversations to build confidence in others. And when we are conscious and intentional of the language that we're using, it changes how people interact with us and it changes the way that we are perceived. So that brings me to three key points today, because I always like to do things in threes. Firstly, words and the language that we use shapes the perception of us. So I recently worked with a speaking client who came in and she had put together this amazing presentation. It was a great keynote that she was developing, but there were so many words that sounded like they'd come out of ChatGPT, which is fine. ChatGPT can be a great content idea generator, fantastic. But when it starts writing your content and when it starts using language that's not yours, when it comes out of your mouth, it makes you sound like not you. I know that sounds odd for me to say when I'm talking about communication, but you know what I'm talking about. So we had to actually pare back that content, and I kept asking her all the time, that word, do you actually say that all the time? And she went, no. I said, why did you put that in? She said, well, I thought it would make me sound more intelligent. Intelligence doesn't come from using tricky words. It comes from using your language and language that the people need to hear and understand. And in fact, building intelligence and building authority comes from delivery, not just the content that you're sharing. So think about that. The words that you share and the language that you share shapes the perception of who you are. So find your languaging style and work on delivery to build authority. With me? Okay, so that takes me to point number 2. How many times have we really wanted to say what we mean, but we haven't because we don't want to upset someone or we don't want to offend anybody? Really common, right? It happens all the time. I did it for many years. However, when we start to find our confidence, and I think probably turning in my 50s, I found a little more confidence as well. When you start to actually say what you mean, you'll learn that other people will go, oh, okay. And if they are emotional, you're not in touch or you're not in charge of their feelings. Obviously, you don't want to insult or hurt anybody. We don't do that. I'm here to help a million people tell their stories. So we don't want to really offend people. But say what you mean and don't over-explain, which is what I kind of just did. Keep it simple. There is a beautiful way of being able to provide feedback to people, which is something that I learnt when I was around 16 or 17 years of age. I did a youth leadership program, which was like an outreach program of Toastmasters in Wellington, and I did that through my college, and that was life-changing. And one of the things I learnt through that program was that when we want to give feedback to people, don't over-explain. Give just 3 points. See, it comes back to the rule of 3, right? Commend somebody, then recommend. So give feedback, don't over-explain, be direct, but don't be hurtful. And then finally, commend. The reason why we do it this way is that it's much easier for the brain to receive that constructive criticism or that feedback, especially if you're dealing with sensitive people like me, and rejection sensitivity dysphoria is a very real thing. And if you're neurofabulous like I am, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We really struggle getting any constructive criticism. But when it's given with a compliment, they call it sometimes a compliment sandwich. Some people say kiss, kick, kiss. These are all great ways to deliver content, but or particularly if it's a challenging message, but don't over explain. Do say what you mean, but maybe sandwich it up with something lovely on either side. Now, the final point that I really wanted to share today is one of the greatest languaging and communication tools I have ever heard. Have you ever heard of something called the blue monkey theory? Blue monkey theory? No, it's been called all sorts of different things over the years. But if I say to you a blue monkey, now try and think of something that is not a blue monkey. Chances are you're still thinking of a blue monkey, right? That's because the brain doesn't actually register the words no, not, never, don't. Even the word but is a big one, but I'll come back to that in a second. All of these are part of a principle that was developed by a man called Carl Jung. So it's a psychological principle. And when we are trying to, say, give instructions to children, this is a prime example. If you tell a child, don't run over there, what will they do? That's because the command was at the end of the statement. That's the recency part. So anything like from the word don't, the brain won't hear. So it will only hear the command. And it's exactly the same even in a statement like, I absolutely appreciate what you've done, but we need to try harder. So the brain won't actually hear anything. The brain of the recipient won't hear anything before the word but. Everything's kind of wiped out. So the command is at the end. So consider that when you are speaking and you're telling an audience your message, or you're in a team meeting and you want to be really direct about your message, or you're trying to get information through, remove those negative words. See if you can reframe everything you do into a positive form, even though you might be giving constructive criticism. Instead of saying something like, don't do this, it leads to poor performance. Flip it around, reframe it, and speak something more intentionally like, we do well when we perform this way. Can you see that little shift? By doing that, you are being much more conscious and intentional with your language. And that message that you're trying to get across, you'll get buy-in from the people that are listening to you, whether it's your keynote speaking audience, whether it's your team, even if it's your children or your family. It works. So I'm going to recap today's 3 really important points around conscious and intentional language. Firstly, remember, your words shape the perception of who you are. Use your own language and think about the types of language that your audience needs to hear. Don't put in highfalutin words because you think they're going to make you sound flash. It leads to mistrust. It doesn't serve you. You look silly. So don't do it. Just be you. That's the most important thing. That's what builds trust. The second thing is always say what you mean. Don't be an ass. Be kind, but do be direct, because when you try to over-explain, it either validates your credibility, or people will think, oh, you can't trust them, or oh, they're trying to backtrack now. You don't want to do that. Be direct. Do say what you mean, but be kind about it. Think about that compliment sandwich. Say something nice. Give a very clear and intentional message about how we can transform, or constructive criticism in a positive fashion, and then finish with a nice compliment again at the end. And the third point is to always remember that rule of recency, or the blue monkey theory. Remove words like no, not, or never, unless you're using them for a specific effect in your keynote. And remember that anything you say in a statement before the word but is ignored. Remember that the last part of that statement, that's the recency. The command at the end is what the brain remembers. So especially if you're doing a keynote and you've got a key message, make sure that there's no no's, nots, or nevers. Keep it in the positive and the affirmative, and that message will be received and hopefully implemented. Fingers crossed, because that's what we try to do, right? As speakers, we want to lift people up and allow them to think differently and maybe live a slightly different life after we've shared our stories and our information. So there you go. Super simple. Think about being intentional with your language and watch the magic happen. And if you need any help, reach out. You know where I am.